The success of the Commodores couldn't shield them from the tragic life behind the spotlight. The band's unexpected end was a sad experience for both members and their fans. What really went wrong? Join us as we uncover the devastating story of the Commodores members. Formation of the Commodores.
Trying to find some band members, because I'm going to put a band together, and we're going to be the Black Beatles. He looked at me like I was crazy. This guy was Lionel Richie, you know.
As a freshman in college, he was helping to form the soul funk band, the Commodores.
You know, it was just to meet girls and play music. That's all that was about, to have a great time.
In the late 1970s and early 1980s, the Commodores reigned as one of the most iconic soul bands in the world. But before their rise to fame, they were simply a group of college friends chasing dreams of music. The band's journey began at Tuskegee University in Alabama, where two smaller student groups, the Mystics and the Jays, merged their talents to form something extraordinary. Among the members of the Mystics were future stars Lionel Richie, Thomas McClary, and William King. Lionel Richie was born on June 20, 1949, in the historic town of Tuskegee, Alabama. His parents, Lionel Brockman Richie and Alberta R. Foster, raised him in a family rooted in both music and legacy. Richie's grandmother, Adelaide Mary Brown, was a skilled classical pianist whose influence would echo throughout his life. He spent his formative years in the vibrant area of Tuskegee Institute, where his family's home had been gifted to his grandparents by none other than Booker T. Washington. Richie's academic journey began at Joliet Township High School in Illinois, where he excelled not only in the classroom, but also on the tennis court. His athletic prowess earned him a tennis scholarship to Tuskegee Institute, where he balanced sports with a passion for music. As a member of the Marching Crimson Pipers, Tuskegee's celebrated marching band, Richie cultivated his artistic side. He graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in economics, coupled with a minor in accounting. At first, Richie was considering a path in the Episcopal Church in order to become a priest. However, he soon realized his true calling lay in music. Despite not formally knowing how to read or write music, Richie's raw talent and determination set the stage for an extraordinary musical career. On the other hand, William King, a native of Birmingham, Alabama, began his journey with a strong foundation in academics and athletics. While studying at Tuskegee University, he earned recognition as an all-conference athlete in the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, SIAC. His talent and passion for tennis even led him to consider a professional career in the sport. However, his path took a creative turn when he chose to continue his journey with the Commodores. King was also employed by a digital computer company, where his job was to write software. Ultimately, his love for music outweighed all else, leading him to fully embrace life with the band. The last member, Thomas McClary, was born in Eustis, Florida in 1949. McClary made history as one of the pioneering African-American students to integrate Florida's schools, blazing a trail even before the landmark Brown v. Board of Education decision was fully enforced. His passion for music emerged early, starting with the ukulele, which soon expanded to include the acoustic and electric guitar, shaping his musical journey. After high school, McClary pursued a business degree at Tuskegee University in Alabama. It was during his freshman year, standing in the registration line, that fate intervened. He met Lionel Richie, a chance encounter that blossomed into a meaningful friendship. By 1968, the duo shared a vision that would soon change the landscape of music forever. Together, they assembled a band, initially called the Mystics, setting the stage for a legendary collaboration. What started as a college collaboration eventually evolved into a legendary force in soul and R&B history. In an insightful interview, Thomas McClary, the talented guitarist, shared the unforgettable story of how he met Lionel Richie, a moment that would mark the beginning of an iconic musical partnership. It all began at Tuskegee University, where McClary was standing in the registration line. Suddenly, he heard a familiar sound. Someone behind him, whistling a jazz tune by Eddie Harris. Intrigued, McClary turned around and asked, "Are you a musician?" The young man, shy and unassuming, modestly replied that he was not really a musician. McClary went on to explain that he was forming a band for the upcoming freshman talent show and was on the lookout for musicians. The young man, who was Lionel Richie, responded that he lived nearby and could gather a few friends for an audition at his grandmother's house, just across the street. McClary agreed, and when he arrived at Richie's grandmother's house, he was quite surprised when he saw Richie coming down the stairs playing a saxophone. Thomas laughed and said, "I thought you said you weren't a musician." Richie, in a humble tone, simply responded that he only knew how to play a little bit. At that moment, McClary knew Richie was the perfect fit for the band. They performed at the freshman talent show, and to everyone's surprise, they won. Despite not having their own equipment, they borrowed gear from another campus band called the Jays. As time passed, when some members of the Jays graduated, McClary and his friends merged with them. The Jays included Andre Callahan, Michael Gilbert, and Milan Williams. Milan Williams, born in Okolona, Mississippi, found his passion for music at an early age. Inspired by his older brother Earl, a talented multi-instrumentalist, Milan began developing his piano skills. His musical journey started with forming his first band, the Jays, with the two other members. They needed more members, while McClary's group needed equipment. So the groups teamed up, and this collaboration set the stage for something extraordinary, becoming famous.
To me, and he said, young man, I want to thank you for many years of your music. Your lyrics got me through many years of being in prison."
When 6 gifted students decided to form a band, one of their first tasks was to pick a name. William King was the one who stumbled upon their name entirely by chance. While thumbing through a dictionary, his finger landed on the word Commodore. Amused by the discovery, King laughed, admitting they had been very lucky. He jokingly said that they could have ended up with something way worse like the Commodores. With their new identity, the Commodores embarked on a journey that would take them from small gigs to stardom, fueled by fierce determination and passion. Guitarist Thomas McClary fondly recalled their early days, brimming with relentless ambition and hunger for success. The Commodores would drive through the night just to get to New York, dreaming of opportunities to showcase their talents. But their aspirations came with challenges. One of the biggest hurdles was convincing Lionel Richie's grandmother to let him join them on their journey. At the time, Richie was supposed to begin a job at a bomb factory in Joliet, Illinois. His grandmother, worried about his future and the temptations of a musician's life, hesitated to give her permission. The band promised her they would steer clear of illegal substances and alcohol, a vow that would later shape their disciplined approach to success. Armed with hope and a few small gigs under their belt, the Commodores saved up enough money for their journey. However, their funds didn't last long. On the New Jersey Turnpike, they reached a toll booth, but realized they didn't have the $4.50 needed to pass through. The toll collector, after taking a look at their overcrowded van, said he believed them. He told them he knew, because if they had money, they would have rented a U-Haul. The group laughed at the absurdity of their situation, a memory that would later become a humorous part in their rise to fame. Once they finally arrived in New York, things turned out to be even worse. They stopped at the YMCA, hoping to exchange some work for a place to stay. But when they returned to their van, they were devastated to discover all their music equipment had been stolen. Their dream seemed to be slipping away as they were broke, and now without instruments. Desperate for help, they found their way to Small's Paradise, a legendary Harlem venue known for showcasing big bands. There, a man offered to help them recover their equipment for a fee of $50. The Commodores didn't have the money, but fate intervened in the form of Benny Ashburn, a man who would later become their manager. Ashburn not only lent them the $50, but also set up an audition for the group at Small's Paradise. Despite their hardships, the Commodores delivered an interesting performance, impressing the crowd with their ability to dance and play simultaneously, a rarity at the time. Their electrifying performance earned them a residency at the venue and marked the beginning of a fruitful partnership with Ashburn. Ashburn's connections soon led to a life-changing opportunity. He introduced the band to Suzanne DePass, a trusted associate of Motown founder Berry Gordy. DePass was tasked with identifying and nurturing fresh talent for the label and had already achieved success with acts like the Jackson 5. Fresh off their appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show, the Jackson 5 were becoming global superstars. To boost their growing popularity, they needed an opening act for their upcoming tour. Suzanne knew the Commodores' high-energy performances would be a perfect fit. For 2 years, the Commodores toured with the Jackson 5, captivating audiences and improving their craft on large stages. This exposure not only broadened their fan base, but also impressed Berry Gordy, who signed the Commodores to their first Motown recording contract. Once signed with Motown, the Commodores wasted no time making waves. Their instrumental hit, Machine Gun, became a breakout success, gaining widespread recognition for its funky, energetic sound. The song was embraced at sports events and featured in iconic films like Boogie Nights and Looking for Mr. Goodbar. It peaked at number 22 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, firmly establishing the band as a rising force in the music industry. Another standout track, I Feel Sanctified, showcased the band's versatility and funky roots. The Commodores' influence on the funk genre was undeniable. Their infectious groove would later inspire other artists, including Wild Cherry, who famously recorded Play That Funky Music. In 1978, the Commodores appeared in the film Thank God It's Friday, performing their electrifying track Too Hot to Trot during a dance contest scene. The movie also featured two of their biggest hits, Brick House and Easy, elevating their reputation as both musical innovators and cultural icons. Little did they know that things were about to change completely. Broken Promises.
You know what solo means?
Yeah.
Solo means you get another band.
Mm-hmm.
I already had a band.
Right.
The problem that happened with the Commodores was it was so difficult from a press point of view. And the press kept saying terrible things like, what's a guy like Lionel Richie doing in a band like the Commodores? This is the press now. Or finally, Lionel Richie comes on stage and he sings his love songs. Try to go back to a rehearsal after that.
Then they took it hard.
And it's very difficult. So we didn't really think of it as being this long. It's just going to be a break for a minute to kind of get everybody's attitude down a little bit. It's just that right after that, All Night Long happened.
Uh-huh.
Endless Love.
Did they call you and say, hey, you know what, we changed our mind?
No, that never happened.
In the midst of their success, the Commodores made the unexpected decision to take a break from recording and touring. During this hiatus, Lionel Richie, the group's charismatic lead singer, was encouraged by Motown to venture into a solo project. Reluctantly at first, Richie decided to give it a try, not knowing this decision would irrevocably change the group's dynamics. To Richie's surprise, and perhaps to the dismay of his bandmates, his solo album became a massive success. This gave Richie the confidence to fully pursue a solo career, a choice that left lasting wounds within the Commodores. Although the Commodores continued without Richie, their trajectory was never the same. William King, one of the band's founding members, opened up about the painful split in a 1985 interview. While King emphasized that his frustration wasn't solely due to Richie's departure, it was the way Richie left that hurt the most. According to King, Richie repeatedly promised to return to the group after each project outside the band. First, Richie assured them he would be back after working with Kenny Rogers. Then came the promise to return after collaborating with Diana Ross. Finally, Richie claimed he would come back after releasing his solo album. Each time, the Commodores were left waiting, unable to tour or record new music because promoters refused to book them without Richie. King used a striking analogy to illustrate how significant Richie's absence was It was just the same way nobody would book the Beatles without Paul McCartney. For the Commodores, that was how important Ritchie was. He was a central figure who embodied the essence of their sound and appeal. However, instead of making a clean break or directly informing the band he wouldn't return, Ritchie left them in the dark. The uncertainty lingered until the group finally decided to move forward without him. But by then, the damage was done, and the scars remained. From Ritchie's perspective, his departure wasn't as calculated as it might have seemed. In later interviews, he admitted he never intended to leave the Commodores hanging. He genuinely believed he would return to the group, but as he took on more solo projects, he discovered an unexpected freedom in being on his own. The independence and creative control he experienced as a solo artist made it increasingly difficult to go back. Despite his explanations, the waiting and uncertainty were hard for King and others to forgive. Ritchie's departure had a profound impact on the Commodores, both creatively and commercially. Initially, the group believed they could sustain their success without him. After all, they had worked together for years, and many of their biggest hits were the result of collective effort. However, the public viewed Ritchie as the band's main star. This misperception stemmed from Ritchie's prominent role in writing and performing many of their iconic songs. Even though the other members contributed significantly to the band's sound, audiences largely credited Ritchie for their success. When he left, the Commodores struggled to maintain their popularity and faced a financial downturn as well. Adding another layer of complexity to the situation were the differing opinions within the group. Thomas McClary, a fellow founding member, offered a more measured perspective on the feud. He acknowledged Ritchie's immense talent, saying that Lionel is very talented. He has a great voice and is a wonderful writer. McClary believed that jealousy often played a role in the lingering tensions among the band members. He was candid about internal conflicts, pointing out that William King, in particular, was often seen as a source of discord. McClary believes that King was probably the least talented one of them all, and he has been the main stumbling block. He also noted that another member, Walter Orange, often sided with King, which further increased the group's divisions. Despite the lingering bitterness, McClary expressed a deep desire for reconciliation. When asked about the possibility of a Commodores reunion, he enthusiastically replied, "Yes, I would love it." He revealed that he had spent nearly 3 decades trying to make it happen. McClary recalled a sad moment in 2008 when Ritchie invited him and Ronald LaPred to perform together in New Zealand. The fans were ecstatic to see them reunited on stage. Similarly, in 2009, Ritchie proposed a reunion at the Essence Music Festival in New Orleans. Unfortunately, efforts to bring the rest of the band together failed. The emotional wounds ran too deep, with some members refusing to speak to Ritchie for over 40 years. McClary voiced his frustration with the prolonged estrangement, saying that it was something they should have forgotten about. For McClary, the prospect of a reunion wasn't just about revisiting their glory days. It was about healing old wounds and celebrating the legacy they had built together. Yet, the road to reconciliation remained filled with challenges. The story of Lionel Ritchie and the Commodores is one of immense talent, success, and heartbreak. It's a tale of how ambition and miscommunication can strain even the strongest bonds. Ritchie's solo career undeniably reached incredible heights, but it came at a cost. For the Commodores, moving forward without their star lead was a test of resilience and determination. While they continued to create music and perform, the shadow of Ritchie's departure was still obvious. Soon, everything began to gradually fall apart. Breaking apart. After Lionel Ritchie left the Commodores, Skylar Jett stepped in as the new co-lead singer, bringing a fresh energy to the group during a crucial time. While Jett's addition provided a much-needed spark, it wasn't enough to stop another founding member, Thomas McClary, from deciding to leave the band as well. McClary's departure marked a distinct moment in the Commodores' history, as he chose to pursue a solo career and establish a gospel music company. In a recent interview, McClary reflected on his reasons for leaving and shed light on why both he and Ritchie felt it was time to move on. McClary explained that the dynamics within the band were shifting in ways that were hard to ignore. He observed that some members had lost their enthusiasm for the music, becoming distracted by other aspects of their lives. This lack of focus created tension and made it increasingly difficult to maintain the strong unity that had once defined the Commodores. For McClary, this was deeply frustrating, as he felt a personal responsibility to keep the band moving forward. Despite his efforts, the strain of keeping the group together became too great. Adding to the challenges was the loss of their longtime manager, Benny Ashburn, whose demise had a profound impact on the band. Ashburn had been a stabilizing force and a key figure in their success, and his absence left a void that was hard to fill. McClary described this period as particularly tough, likening the situation to a sports team where even if not everyone is performing at their best, the collective goal should still be to win. Unfortunately, the Commodores were struggling to maintain that sense of shared purpose. After leaving the band, McClary and Ritchie continued to collaborate on various musical projects. Their work included writing songs for prominent artists like Kenny Rogers and Diana Ross, including the hit song for the iconic film Endless Love. This collaboration showcased their enduring creative partnership and ability to produce music that resonated with audiences, even as they pursued separate paths. In McClary's absence, the Commodores welcomed guitarist and vocalist Sheldon Reynolds, whose vibrant energy helped the band navigate this transitional period. However, Reynolds' tenure was short-lived. He soon left to join the legendary group Earth, Wind, and Fire, leaving the Commodores without a guitarist once again. To adapt, the trumpeter William King took on the role of guitarist during live performances, a move that demonstrated the band's resourcefulness and determination to keep performing. Despite these efforts to adapt, the Commodores faced more challenges. Keyboardist Milan Williams, another key member of the original lineup, also decided to leave the band after a series of personal and professional events. Before his departure, Williams experienced a terrifying ordeal when piloting a single-engine plane. During the flight, the aircraft malfunctioned, forcing him to make an emergency landing on a busy freeway in Phoenix, Arizona. Miraculously, both Williams and the band's press agent, who was on board, escaped unharmed. However, the plane was destroyed in a fire after the crash landing. Williams' decision to leave the Commodores was driven by his strong moral convictions. During the apartheid era in South Africa, he refused to perform in the country, taking a stand against the racial segregation and systemic injustice that defined the regime. His principled stance, while admirable, created significant tension within the band. Ultimately, his departure marked the end of the Commodores' original lineup, signaling a new and uncertain era for the group. The absence of Williams also prompted a shift in the Commodores' musical direction. The band began to move away from the funky, soulful sound that had initially brought them fame, experimenting with new styles in an attempt to redefine their identity. However, this transition proved difficult. The loss of key members and the pressures of staying relevant in a rapidly changing music industry made it challenging for the group to maintain their legacy. Tragically, Milan Williams' story did not have a happy ending. Years after leaving the Commodores, he was diagnosed with leukemia, a type of cancer. Despite fighting the disease with determination, he passed away after a 2-year battle. His demise was a devastating blow to the band and their fans, many of whom mourned the loss of a talented musician and an integral part of the Commodores' history. Meanwhile, bassist Ronald LaPret also chose to leave the band, eventually relocating to New Zealand. Like other former members, LaPret faced personal challenges and had to adjust to a new life away from the Commodores. Beyond personal losses, the Commodores faced a series of financial and legal challenges. One of the most significant disputes revolved around the rights to the band's name and the distribution of revenue from their music. As former members pursued solo ventures and new projects, disagreements arose over who had the right to use the name Commodores. These conflicts ultimately escalated into legal battles that strained relationships between former bandmates. The tension reached a peak in 2013 when Thomas McClary began performing with his own band under names such as the Commodores featuring Thomas McClary. This caused confusion among fans and led to legal action from the remaining Commodores members, including William King and Walter Orange, who continued to perform under the band's name with new musicians. The legal dispute culminated in a 2018 court ruling in Florida that favored the active members of the Commodores. The court's decision was based on two key points. First, it determined that the remaining members had established common law trademark rights to the band's name by continuing to perform and represent the group. Second, the court found that previous agreements among the band members stated that the ownership of the name was collective. No single member could use it independently after leaving the group. As a result, McClary was prohibited from promoting his band using the Commodores name. While he was allowed to identify himself as an original member of the band, he could not market his group as the Commodores, featuring Thomas McClary, or similar variations. This legal victory was significant for the Commodores, helping them protect their brand and legacy. However, it also underscored the challenges of maintaining harmony and clarity within a band with such a rich and complicated history. Despite the setbacks, the Commodores' influence endures. Today, the possibility of a full reunion remains uncertain, but as time passes, one can only hope that the bitterness fades, leaving room for the kind of reunion that fans, and perhaps even the band members themselves, have long dreamed of. In the end, all the members of the Commodores share a legacy that has touched millions, proving that their collective brilliance, even with its imperfections, remains timeless. Their journey, marked by groundbreaking achievements, personal sacrifices, and evolving challenges, reflects the complexities of artistic collaboration. From their early days as a pioneering funk and soul group to their later reinventions, the Commodores' story is one of resilience and the enduring power of music. For fans, their music remains a result of the passion and talent that defined the band's golden years. So what happened next after this phase? Did the remaining members of the band still continue? The later years. Over time, the Commodores' music evolved significantly, shifting away from their signature funky sound toward a more polished, commercial pop style. This change began to take shape in 1984, when the band added James Dean, J.D. Nicholas, as a co-lead singer alongside Walter Clyde Orange, the band's drummer. J.D. Nicholas's addition was seen as an effort to refresh the group's lineup and inject new energy into their music. But it was also a clear response to the changing tides of the music industry. However, despite the fresh dynamics within the band, the Commodores struggled to produce major hits in the early 1980s. Their sound no longer resonated with fans in the same way it had in the 1970s, and they faced a period of uncertainty. It wasn't until 1985 that the Commodores regained success with the release of their album Night Shift, their final album with Motown Records. The title track, Night Shift, stood out as a tribute to two iconic R&B legends, Marvin Gaye and Jackie Wilson, both of whom had passed away the previous year. The song, which paid homage to these beloved artists, resonated deeply with fans and became a massive hit. It soared to #1 on the charts, becoming one of the band's most memorable tracks. Night Shift not only performed well commercially, reaching 3rd place in the United States charts, but it also earned the Commodores a Grammy Award for Best R&B Performance by a duo or group with vocals. The success of Night Shift marked a high point for the Commodores, but the shift to a more pop-oriented sound wasn't without its controversies. While the commercial success was undeniable, many longtime fans were not thrilled with the band's departure from their signature funky style. The Commodores had been known for their lively, energetic performances and a groove-based sound that was the epitome of 1970s funk and soul. The transition to a poppier, more radio-friendly approach alienated some of the band's core audience. who felt that the Commodores had lost their unique identity. For these fans, the new direction seemed to compromise the raw, soulful energy that had defined the band's earlier music. This shift wasn't entirely driven by artistic choice. The music industry itself was undergoing massive changes in the 1980s and 1990s. New technologies, particularly the rise of digital music, began to change how people consumed music. The way listeners accessed and interacted with music was evolving rapidly, and record labels were keen to capitalize on these changes. In this new environment, labels pushed artists, including the Commodores, to broaden their appeal and reach a larger audience. This meant adapting to the mainstream tastes of the time, which were leaning more toward pop and less toward the funk and soul the Commodores had pioneered. The pressure to adapt created a difficult balancing act for bands that had been around for a while. While they wanted to honor their roots, they also had to evolve in order to survive and thrive in a changing industry. The Commodores struggled to find a balance between appealing to their old fan base and attracting new listeners was a challenge shared by many long-established bands. As the 80s progressed, some fans felt that the Commodores' new sound was too commercial, while younger audiences were intrigued by the fresh, more contemporary pop flavor. In this new landscape, the Commodores found themselves at a crossroads, trying to stay relevant while grappling with their identity and legacy. In 2010, the Commodores revisited Night Shift in a deeply personal way. This time, the band re-recorded the track as a tribute to Michael Jackson, who had tragically passed away in 2009. The decision to re-record the song was inspired by a powerful moment the band had while on tour in Europe. On June 25th, 2009, the Commodores were performing at the famed Wembley Arena in London when they first heard the news that Michael Jackson had died. Although they were skeptical at first, they confirmed the tragic news in their dressing rooms, and the band was overwhelmed with sadness. The following night, during their performance in Birmingham, lead singer J.D. Nicholas added Michael Jackson's name into the lyrics of Night Shift as a tribute to the King of Pop. From that moment on, the Commodores began incorporating Michael Jackson and other influential R&B artists who had passed away into their performances. The emotional impact of Jackson's demise, coupled with their own reflections on the loss of musical icons, inspired the Commodores to re-record Night Shift with new lyrics, honoring Michael Jackson and other musical legends. This re-recorded version was released on the first anniversary of Jackson's demise in 2010. The Commodores' creative journey continued to be shaped by the diverse influences of legendary artists such as Santana, Jimi Hendrix, Albert King, James Taylor, and the supergroup Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. Each of these musicians had a distinct style, but they all shared a deep, soulful vibe that resonated with the Commodores. Drawing from these varied influences, the band sought to blend elements of rock, blues, and soul, aiming for a raw, authentic sound that would appeal to a wide audience. This fusion of influences led the Commodores to develop a unique and timeless sound, helping them navigate the rapidly changing music landscape and ensuring their place in music history. In the end, the Commodores' journey through the 1980s and beyond was marked by both triumphs and challenges. They successfully adapted to the shifting industry trends while staying true to their roots. Their ability to evolve while honoring the past allowed them to remain relevant in a world of ever-changing musical tastes. Achievements. The Commodores have sold over 70 million albums worldwide, a remarkable achievement that highlights the widespread appeal of their music. Their sound has resonated with a diverse range of listeners, from fans in intimate settings to large concert halls, transcending barriers of age, background, and culture. Known for their smooth melodies and catchy tunes, the Commodores have a unique ability to create music that gets people to sing along, leaving a lasting impact on anyone who hears their songs. With songs that are both timeless and engaging, it's no wonder their popularity has remained strong for decades. The Commodores' impressive career has earned them considerable recognition within the music industry. Their contributions were honored when they were inducted into the Alabama Music Hall of Fame and the Vocal Group Hall of Fame, two prestigious accolades that reflect their deep influence on the music community. These recognitions prove the lasting legacy and the respect they command in the music world. Additionally, the band has been nominated for 9 Grammy Awards, a prestigious honor that places them among the industry's elite. In addition to these nominations, the Commodores won a Grammy, earning them their place in music history. Throughout their journey, the Commodores have remained dedicated to their craft and to their fans. Even in the face of challenges, the band has continued to produce new music and tour, keeping their spirit alive for generations of fans. As of 2020, 3 core members, namely Walter Clyde Orange, J.D. Nicholas, and William W. King, continue to perform alongside their band, The Mean Machine. This 5-piece ensemble carries on the Commodores' iconic sound, performing at arenas, theaters, and festivals around the world. Their ability to adapt while staying true to their roots has kept their music fresh, attracting both loyal fans and new listeners alike. The Commodores' legacy isn't just about their sales or awards. It's about the impact they've made on the lives of those who have enjoyed their music. From inspiring countless artists to simply providing a soundtrack to life's most memorable moments, their influence reaches far beyond the stage. Despite the challenges they have faced over the years, their commitment to performing at the highest level ensures that the Commodores will remain a vital force in music for years to come. So what do you think about the tragic end of the Commodores and its members? Let us know in the comments. If you want more interesting revelations, be sure to like, subscribe, and watch the next video shown on your screen. See you there.